Hey guys, what's going on? Just wanted to do a quick video talking about the announced fight between Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. I think this is a really interesting matchup. I think Anthony Joshua coming off of a few good wins recently and Ngannou really taking it to Fury in the last fight really shows where Anthony Joshua is at in comparison with Tyson Fury, but I don't think it's a given that Anthony Joshua wins. I think Ngannou is a nightmare of a matchup for him. I don't think Anthony Joshua has really faced anyone that's really bigger than him and physically stronger than him. And I really think, looking back at his record, even a few fights further than the last couple, Anthony Joshua has really had a hard time with power punchers. And not just power punchers, even Usyk. He lost twice to Usyk. But I think even going back a step further, looking at what happened with Andy Ruiz, I think is very telling for what could happen in his upcoming fight against Ngannou. So I think if you get pretty much the same Ngannou that you got against Fury, not to mention him getting a little bit better, if he's still training with Mike Tyson, if he's still been pretty much in training camp and keeping himself in shape since the Fury fight, I think it's very likely that Ngannou would come in there and knock out Anthony Joshua. It probably would be more of a TKO, but I don't really think Anthony Joshua has gone up against anyone that's challenged him physically, especially with Ngannou's size. I think Anthony Joshua's past couple wins are pretty overrated. I don't even know the guy, but he also had a similar knockout to Wilder a few fights before that. And then Wallin, a lot of people are trying to compare that fight against Fury when Tyson Fury had a really tough time. But I don't think stylistically you can compare fighters in that sense. And I think the Wallin that fought Fury is extremely different than the one we got against Anthony Joshua, not to mention that the fight was a doctor stoppage. So I think what will likely happen is Anthony Joshua is going to go a few rounds with Ngannou and realize that he hasn't really faced anyone like Ngannou before, and I expect in the middle rounds he'll get some heavy punches from Ngannou and won't really know how to fight back. And what this would do to heavyweight boxing, I think if Fury is able to pull off the win against Usyk, which I think will be an extremely tough matchup for him, I think Ngannou is in the place after beating Joshua to then have a rematch with Tyson Fury. And same thing applies if Usyk is able to upset Tyson Fury. I think Ngannou has a very good argument to be the next contender and fight Usyk. And this would be the first time that Ngannou would have a really good chance at becoming the first UFC crossover to become not only a boxing champion, but the heavyweight champion of the world. So I think there's probably about a 90% chance that Ngannou beats Anthony Joshua. I think if it's a close fight, just going by the judges and the boxing bias, I think they probably would give a split decision to Anthony Joshua, even if Ngannou was really dominant. But I think Ngannou won't even let it go to the judges this time. I think especially with Mike Tyson's help, he will get Joshua out of there in one way or another. And I think, again, this sets up a title match for Ngannou, but I think for Joshua, I don't think he's out of it yet. I think since Ngannou gave Fury such a hard time, I think that's probably why Joshua is taking this fight, because if he loses, it's not that big of a deal. If he's able to win a close fight like Fury did, then that puts him in the same bracket as Fury. So I think if he loses in this case, I think there's still a lot he could do. I think this would be a perfect opportunity for him to fight Wilder. This fight should have happened years ago, and since they would both be coming off a loss, it would be a great opportunity for the two of them to finally face each other, and the winner is right back in the equation. Looking at Wilder's fight, I think Parker was a much tougher fight than Wallin. I don't really think this necessarily means that Joshua is a lot better than Wilder. At this case, I think Wilder would have a good chance of knocking out Anthony Joshua if the two of them fought. So I think Parker is going to be in the equation as well. It's also possible that we get Parker and Ngannou fighting and then getting the winner of that fight against either Fury or Usyk. So I really think there's a lot that could be done in the heavyweight division. And just kind of considering some other options, I think if Anthony Joshua wins either by decision or by especially knockout, I think that would set up a really big fight between him and Tyson Fury in England, and anything could happen there. If that happened, I don't think Ngannou's out of the equation either. I think that could set up a potential matchup between Wilder and Ngannou, which would be a really interesting fight. So I really think there's a lot of ways the cookie could crumble here. And then even going to the upcoming fight between Usyk and Fury, even the loser of that could get in one of these fights as well. If Usyk lost, I think he could fight someone like Ngannou. He could fight Anthony Joshua for a third time, but I don't think that would be as interesting. I think most likely if Usyk lost, he might face someone like Parker. So I really think there's a lot of different combinations of how this could play out. I think if heavyweight boxing is really active this year, I think it could really bring heavyweight boxing back to what it used to be with greats like Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. So really interesting to see what happens here. I think this could set up a bunch of different matchups, but I do think Ngannou in full health in a good training camp would beat Anthony Joshua. But again, it's hard to know exactly how hard fighters are training, if they've taken their foot off the gas, if they have any injuries that they aren't letting out there. And at the end of the day, it is heavyweight boxing, so anything could happen. But let me know what you guys think would happen in this matchup. Let me know what fights you guys would want to see in heavyweight boxing, and I appreciate you watching this video. I'll see you later.